in the second half. We got through it, and I think we've gotten a lot of good information from both sides. And we will now bring it back to staff and have a conversation.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. That's a tough act to follow, so I won't be as entertaining, I can guarantee that. But I just have a few concluding thoughts.
I'm sorry, excuse me, Jack. Did you ask for rebuttal, Lisa?
No.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Sure. I just have a few concluding thoughts and observations. And as Dan and Kevin had mentioned, the permit before you today has this long and tortured history. And as you also heard today, there are a lot of passionate advocates on both sides of the issues at Oceano Dunes. And first of all, I want to thank everyone for their testimony today. Just in full disclosure, in my youth, I was an avid OHV user. And so I understand the passion in the room today about maintaining HOV riding in the dunes and the family traditions around that riding. Now, although there have been some positive attempts to address the protection of sensitive species in the riding areas and dust control measures that were put in place over the years, for the most part, the interim conditions and the requirements that were laid out in the 1982 Coastal Development Permit really have never been fully realized. In fact, there were a number of years where we did not even have an annual permit review because the issues were just so difficult, and we were in such disagreement with state parks on how to resolve those issues. In fact, for many years, we didn't even have an annual review because of those disagreements. And as you heard from Peter Douglas in that video earlier today, there were some reasons behind that, including potential enforcement issues against a state agency partner and litigation. So for years now, we've been kicking the can down the road, trying very hard to wrap our arms around the seemingly intractable issues and disagreements on how to find that balance between resource protection and off-road vehicle use in the dunes. Well, staff believes it's time to acknowledge the hard truth that off-road vehicle riding within the dunes is simply not compatible with compatible use within one of the most rare and unique habitats in the state. In our view, the confluence of issues at Oceano Dunes, and it is now time to stop kicking the can down the road and deal with these difficult issues head on. Now, the people of the state of California created the Coastal Commission through an initiative back in 1972. And the legislature and governor passed the Coastal Act in 1976, which required a higher standard of review for protection of coastal resources in the coastal zone of California. And as the commission has learned more about our sensitive habitats, endangered species, water quality, environmental justice, climate change, and how various activities affect our coastal resources, the Commission's policies and approaches to protecting coastal resources have evolved over the years. For example, given the significant adverse impacts to coastal resources associated with a coastal sand mining operation in Monterey, the Commission last year, through an enforcement case, began the process of shutting down that last sand mining operation along the coast, recognizing that mining activity was an anachronism that was resulting in devastating impacts to coastal resources. Now, in our view, it's time to put into place some reasonable interim resource protection measures through the proposed conditions on the existing coastal development permit for Oceano Dunes State HOV Park, while at the same time continuing the long-term goal of working on a public works plan that reflects a new contemporary vision for Oceano Dunes and one that achieves a better balance between resource protection and public access. Now, I would just reiterate that the proposed permit conditions we are recommending today will not prejudice the preparation of the PWP in any way. And these measures can be considered as interim protection measures until that PWP is completed. In addition, we are also recommending that state parks consider an alternative in the PWP which transitions away from OHV use to a less intensive beach park use, like beach camping. So, we have put forward a recommendation that we believe is protective of coastal resources and public access at Oceano Dunes for your consideration. And again, as Dan mentioned, the commission has full discretion to take whatever action you feel is appropriate today, including not taking an action today as requested by state parks, and to allow the PWP process to reach its final conclusion. So now we turn this matter over to you for your good judgment and guidance on how to move forward in dealing with the difficult issues at Oceano Dunes. And just finally, I also want to thank State Parks Director Lisa Mangat and her staff for their coordination efforts with Commission staff on these difficult issues on Oceano Dunes, and who I believe are doing their best to address these difficult issues within their statutory responsibilities and mandates. I very much appreciate the professionalism and courtesy in dealing with this matter, and I'm really looking forward to continuing working with them to realize a PWP that achieves those difficult balance between resource protection, beach access, and public recreation. So we're here to answer any questions you may have, and that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to bring it to the committee.